So David Cronenberg has a new film out, which we got to see tonight. We drove to Flagstaff to see this and Watcher back to back. Cronenberg hasn't made a film since Map to the Stars in 2014, I think. And he hasn't made a body horror film in a long, long while. So to see him return after, his son Brandon had kind of taken up his mantle as the body horror guy now with, Antiviral and Possessor and whatnot. It was interesting to see that Cronenberg wanted to return to his roots, so to speak, and present us with a new body horror film with Viggo Mortensen, which he's worked with in the past on History of Violence and Eastern Promises. And he also brings in Kristen Stewart and Leah something. I always forget her name, but I do like her.
Yes.
I never know how to say her name. As far as the plot, that one I'm gonna leave to you. Go for it. Have fun.
Me?
Yep.
Okay.
What's the movie about?
The movie is about a world where people have stopped feeling pain the way that we typically feel it, and as such they can modify their bodies and cut them and do lots of surgeries, and the main character can spontaneously grow new organs, and he and Leah Seydoux, their characters are performance artists, and they put on these shows where they do surgeries in front of a crowd, removing his newly grown organs. And some other stuff happens without giving away too much of the plot, but that's, basically it.
The film is very heavy-handed in its themes and messages about the destruction of the environment and what it's doing to us as people. Like, it kind of has a message, and it's really just going to go for it, and it's going to be very open about it, wear on its sleeve, and, the exposition you get in the film is kind of like almost looking at the camera and being like, you see what we're saying? So I found that to be kind of odd, because usually films like this are much more subtle, and metaphorical, and you have to be like, I think what the director's trying to say.
Yeah.
And with this, Cronenberg's like, no, you're fucking up the planet,
like,
and you're killing us all.
This is it.
I mean, there's a point where in the film where they're like, what you're doing is killing our children. It's killing the earth.
From
It's
the
getting.
inside,
I'm like, damn. Okay, this movie's just like right out telling you. So, I mean, that's right at the forefront, and you'll get that. Overall, okay. We talked about this while we were eating in between the movies, and we both. I think I'm on the side of I'm not as big on this as you are. I didn't hate it, but I think we both agreed on that we like it conceptually more than we like it in its execution.
Yeah.
The thing that I had the biggest problem with in the film, for sure, is that this film is being sold as, even by Cronenberg himself, with the reports that people were like walking out of the premieres and the festivals and everything because it was just too much, and this is super wild, and the body horror is just so crazy and over the top. It isn't.
It's not.
It just isn't. Is it weird?
Sure.
It's a body horror movie. They're all fucking weird. So is it the weirdness level that I expected? Not even close.
No.
So that is where I was really kind of just baffled. Like, okay, they're cutting themselves open and looking at like their internal organs, and there's like there's a sexuality to it,
yes,
right? There's it's like perversion around sadomasochism. Right?
Yeah. But it's not as graphic as we wanted it to be, or we thought it was going to be. I mean, when we were driving to the theater, I was telling you like how much I wanted to be like squeamish and like freaked out and like viscerally.
Yeah, because
like,
you get really wild around body horror.
Yeah.
And she was like this the whole time.
There was no reaction. Nothing. It was very, very minimal.
Stop chewing on my shoe.
But I mean, I wouldn't say that I love the film. I liked it more than you do.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, but I definitely could have gotten more out of the body horror department for sure.
And the film is just, even though it is very on the nose with its, context or subtext, like, I also felt very confused about things outside of that obvious message. Like, there was these two girl characters that came in to help, like, on their machines, and I didn't understand their inclusion and what they were up to and ultimately what happened with them. I was very confused on that. I was kind of confused. Now, the world that this is based within is left insanely ambiguous.
Yes.
Almost like, it kind of almost reminds me of, like, It Follows, in that sense of, like, you don't know where it's at, you don't know what time period it's in, all the buildings are like, they got English, but then below them there's some other language that I didn't recognize, and they're like dilapidated, and everything's graffitied, and everything looks worn out, and like this is almost a dystopian looking future.
Dystopian.
And then there's like a new government like ordinance of like making sure that people are registering this and that, and then the government's inclusion in this. I don't know, it felt cheap.
So the girl characters, I agree with you, I was really confused kind of at the end what was going on with them. But as far as like the world itself, I didn't mind that it was left really ambiguous, and like because I didn't feel that was like essential to know for what the story was, because like you said at the beginning, it was very heavy-handed with like the message that it was trying to portray.
Yeah.
And so that felt like more of the focus, and and it's extremely artsy. I mean, the two main characters are performance artists, and that's definitely like a theme that's just run with for the whole movie, of like this exploration of the body and pain and what it's like transmuting their agony into art.
Yeah.
And so that was like, to me, just more of the primary focus versus like the actual like technical, okay, like this is where they are, this is how the government functions. But having those extra things in there, because there wasn't a lot of body horror the way that we were expecting it, probably would have rounded out the story in a better way, that would have given the film more depth.
Another thing is too, and I think this is a problem I have with these kinds of artistic movies, is that I never connect myself to anybody. Like, I don't relate to anything, and I'm not like rooting for or like invested in, or it's really just kind of, you're watching for the fascination of what's going on and little else. And when the fascination isn't that fascinating, it's kind of like, well, this is all I'm here for. Like, I'm here to watch weird people do weird shit, because that's kind of what this movie is. You could have that be the title: weird people doing weird shit, and that's really kind of like it, with a very heavy-handed, message. So, which is it's fine. I found myself bored a good amount, and then it felt weird for weird's sake in a lot of areas, and it did kind of feel slightly pretentious, even though neither one of us know what that word means.
Right.
Or so we've been told.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really bored during the film. I definitely think it was a slower movie. Not as slow as Watcher, which we reviewed, but it was a slower paced film. But I don't know. I wasn't bored. I like weird for weird's sake a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a big fan of surrealism. And, yeah, I mean, it's not making my top 10.
No.
Like we said, but...
But, I mean, if you're a big Cronenberg fan, you're going to see this anyway. This is yet another film, like I keep saying, I can't believe this has been released wide, because
Very
the
niche.
amount of people that are actually going to enjoy this in the general audience is very low.
Yeah.
If my father went to see this, if like almost any one of my clients went to see this, they would all be like,
man.
they would leave.
Yeah.
They would get up and leave, which I'm fine with. I'm totally fine with. As I've said before, if I make a movie one day and like at least 20% of the audience doesn't walk out pissed off, I failed.
Yeah.
I failed. But I don't know. There's a difference to me with that. Like, I'm not connecting. I'm not that interested, because what I'm there for and what is only being offered to me through my eyes isn't being fulfilled to the extent in which I had hoped for. And that's not preconceived notions. That's like, you know, I guess it is an expectation to a degree because of the pedigree of the director, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to see wild shit, watch Society. That'll fucking show you some really wild ass body horror. And Cronenberg, of course, has done much more wild body horror than this. So, I don't know. It was a pretty subpar Cronenberg film for me. But this typically happens to directors in their older age. Or, you know, I just don't know what I'm talking about. It's a masterpiece, and I don't know. I don't think so. But maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, if you're a big Cronenberg fan, you already went. But those are our thoughts on it. It's not going to win anyone over who's not into body horror or isn't a Cronenberg fan or is like, I don't really like weird movies. Is it like, would it be good for someone who's like not kind of really into those kinds of... Not at all.
No.
You have to be into very bizarre, weird, you know, almost weird for weird's sake.
Yeah.
Slightly pretentious...
bizarre,
artsy fucking films that are super slow. All the characters are unrelatable because they're so bizarre, and you're just like, I don't know anybody like this. So yeah, is that sound appealing? If it does, then go see it. I didn't make it sound. I mean, I made it sound exactly how it is.
Yeah.
So it might be your thing.
Maybe.
But unfortunately, this time it wasn't my thing, and I like weird movies.
And it was like
But this
a little
was just,
bit my thing, but not fully my thing.
Yeah. So, anyways, if any of that made sense, let us know. Bye.
Bye.